Hey guys, it's Kenz
and Shell.
Welcome back to the Effortless Podcast, episode 3.
Yeah, wow, I was going to say no, it's 2.
No, we're moving right along.
3.
Are you ready for today? Phase 3-4 of relationship journey
saga. I do. I feel better than last week, I think.
Okay.
I think last week I was like so nervous and not obviously to talk to you, but like just to say it out loud.
Well, it's a big step. I mean, like that's a big.
And I've just never done it.
Very brave. Good job.
Yeah.
So proud of you.
I've just never done it, so I just was really nervous, and I wanted it to be perceived a certain way,
which I feel like it totally was. I feel like you did a really good job so far.
Thanks. We'll see how today goes.
You'll do great.
Before I continue, though, if you are watching on YouTube and my face, I'm like so not self-conscious, but like aware. If my face looks splotchy, it's not your screen. It's just my face.
Why, Shelly?
Yes.
Tell us about your face experience yesterday.
I did. I got the micro needling facial yesterday.
Did you love it?
I mean, yeah, I feel like I'm interested to see the results because
your face looks very smooth.
Yeah, I do have some like tint and moisturizer on because I was like, I need to like even it out because
nobody would ever notice though.
I guess, but my lip right now, like my upper lip is like tingly. Like I feel like it looks so much more red maybe than it probably does.
It doesn't look red at all.
But I feel like I just had to throw that out there in case someone's like...
Actually, I meant to ask you this yesterday and I realized I never did. So when they do the microneedling, was your face like bleeding? Like is your whole face bleeding or no? That's not what... That's the vampire facial.
I think that's technically... But I think they're like similar because they didn't do the one where they like spin my blood and then inject it back in. Like this one was strictly...
For people that don't know what microneedling is, will you explain it?
Yes. It's a facial that's supposed to... generate your body's own collagen growth.
Okay.
So it's literally like essentially not as deep as a tattoo, but like essentially it's like a little needle.
Yeah.
And all over your face. Mm-hmm. And obviously it doesn't go as deep as a tattoo needle, but
and it's supposed to help with like wrinkles.
Yes, fine lines and wrinkles.
I need that in my life.
So I did it for the first time yesterday and it's like your face is so red after, which my face naturally gets red. So if I'm embarrassed, I cannot lie because if I lie, my face will turn red.
Shoot.
I like literally can't. So anyways, in my neck, he was like, you want me to get some of these fine lines on your neck? I was like, yeah.
I feel like your neck is more red than your face. And this morning after working out, I felt like you were like, your neck was like, whoa.
So red. Which that's how it was right after the facial.
Yeah.
So I feel like,
But I feel like your skin is looking good.
Wow, thanks.
Fresh.
Be looking like Jovi here soon.
Oh my gosh. That 3-year-old fresh face.
3-year-old fresh skin. So I just had to throw that out there in case.
Nobody would ever notice.
In case you could tell. But we'll see. I was told you see the best results after like 3 treatments.
Okay.
Some more to come.
Yeah, it's exciting
on that.
Love that.
But anyways, the after stuff they put on, feels so good.
Like aloe vera feeling. Or is it like
would?
Cold?
It's like cold and it just like so soothing. Probably because you just had a needle shoved in your face all over. So it's like anything painful. Would probably
it didn't hurt though?
Honestly, it did not. It was like annoying, but it did not hurt at all.
That's good.
To me, I felt like it was pretty, whatever. I mean, after, it's more uncomfortable just because, like, you feel like you had a bad sunburn, and I've had many bad sunburns, so...
that fair skin light.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. So, anyways, if you can tell...
You can't tell, but...
It's great.
Shout out for the microneedling.
Yeah. I'm hoping it makes a big difference.
Sure will. Mm-hmm. Okay, should we...
Go right into it?
Yeah. Anything you want to say before we get started?
There is, actually. First, I want to just give such a big thanks to everybody who reached out after last week's episode because I feel like there was like so much positivity coming my way. And I so appreciate that. And especially because I was so nervous. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like I had so many people very encouraging. And so I really appreciate it. So thank you. And I do hope that people can get something out of this. And even if, like I said, you don't know somebody in it or you haven't been in a situation like this, like being aware of this is also just really important, I think.
Yeah. Because I mean, even like I had mentioned to you yesterday, even for people, I feel like that even if they have parents who were in an abusive relationship or something and don't understand, like, why didn't my mom or dad just get out of it? I don't understand why they wouldn't. It could be helpful to just, like, it just gives a better understanding of the whole mental side of a
for sure.
abusive relationship. Your favorite word.
Which I feel like I'll touch on that too. It's not funny, but
no, it's not.
For us, it's funny just of conversations that we've had over this long journey.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing I want to say is like huge thanks. And I am super appreciative of everybody who reached out. So thank you so much. And I'm going to do a quick recap. So last week, I kind of in my head broke it down into the 4 phases. So like phase 1 was the relationship. Phase 2 is the initial get out.
Right. When you out.
When you out. So the official when you out. And then there's like the staying out and then the forgiveness portion. And so I went over the relationship piece for the most part in last episode.
Right.
And then the initial getting out of the relationship. And I guess as I was talking and when I was going back and listening to the podcast last week, I was thinking, I don't know how well I explained it. I felt like I had so many things popping into my head, like, oh, don't forget this, don't forget that, or make sure you explain this. And so I kept saying like, I want someone to get something out of this. And I guess my story or my experience was like the 4 phases, like that in my head. That's how I processed it. Well, moving forward, I want to say this story because if anybody else is in a similar situation, I don't want them to have to go through 4 phases. I would rather them go through 3. And that's why I was like, okay, that makes more sense to express that because it should be the relationship and then getting out and staying out should be all one. For me, it was 2 because, like I said before, I was uneducated. I didn't know what I was feeling. And it's like, that's what I want to get out there is like the feelings that you're feeling, it's all normal, like in this situation. And you don't have to go through those like extra miserable times that I went through. Like,
or like
it's
questioning
hard.
your feelings or like what is going on right now.
And you will. The thing is, like, everything I felt was normal for this situation, but I didn't know it was normal. So I had an extra time that was just like, I felt miserable. And I just want someone to like know that, it's going to be hard, but that's not abnormal. Like, that's where your support comes in. And then if you do these steps, it's still going to be hard. Like nothing about it is easy, but it makes you feel better.
Yeah. That's good. I feel like that's awesome. So, I mean, if people could skip one of the 4 phases.
Yeah, one of the 4 phases.
I think anybody would take that.
Yes. So just to recap also, so the relationship phase, the getting out phase, and I feel like I kind of ended on, I had a lot of feelings. I knew the feelings weren't right. But I didn't know what the feelings were. I didn't know why I was feeling that way. And then once I got out of the relationship, the good times that were mixed in with the bad were now gone. And I was essentially stuck with just the bad feelings. And that kind of got worse, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, and 2, I feel like it was you kind of like you touched on before. You were so used to doing everything for that one person that when all of a sudden that person is just completely out of your life, it leaves you feeling like, who am I?
Yes. I had no idea. Many discussions about that. And so now I'm just going to kind of go into the phase 3, which is the staying out. And the hard part about this is all of the emotions that you're feeling and making sense of that. And you're literally having an internal battle with yourself. So like you want to go back. It's so uncomfortable. You're like, I have all these super negative feelings, but at least when I had these feelings, I had somebody with me.
Yeah.
And there were still good times.
And you still loved this person.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So it's like you go from talking to them every day, and it's not like I feel like I said this so many times before, I'm focusing on all the bad emotions that I had, but there were still like good, like on a daily basis, it was an enjoyable time to be with this person. And so like that is just gone. And then a part of you is like, well, I want to go back because I want to have those good times again. So you're constantly like in your head battling yourself. Like,
and it's what you know. Like it sounds so easier than starting fresh.
Yeah, for sure. It's way easier. It's like you're home in a sense because at least for me, I was in the relationship for such a long time. Like I knew nothing else.
Right.
I hadn't dated forever. So it's just, that's why it's hard to stay out.
Which is
so
fair.
Much easier to go back.
Yeah.
Especially if you have other factors. Like if you have kids with somebody, I can't even imagine. I mean, that would be so hard. So there's just a lot that goes into that. And then I'm going to just kind of, I have my notes here. So if I'm looking down, I'm just looking at my notes because I don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to go over a couple of the emotions that you initially feel right when you get out. And
also, you might touch on this, but at what point did you start doing your therapy?
I did not start doing therapy until it was almost like, it was a solid amount of time after I got out of the relationship.
Because do you feel like it'd be beneficial for somebody who is in a relationship like this, basically like get out, book your therapy?
I mean, yeah. And that's kind of like when I said I want someone to like not have to go through that phase, whatever I said 3 or 4, I feel like they kind of mesh. But because
that's when you learned the names to everything.
And I learned that this is like a normal progression coming out of a relationship like that.
Okay.
And so yeah, I would say I'm going to kind of like go through, I guess, the feelings that I felt that are all normal, but I didn't know that. And so if you know that coming out, it's like it eliminates a lot of that turmoil. And that was in the time when I talked about last week where I got to the point where I wasn't sleeping. I was having like dreams. I was not eating. And when
you were at your rock bottom,
I was literally, I was. I was,
which was sad. I mean, it was sad. It was sad.
I was like that. I'm like, this is what I imagined myself, and I know I kind of told you this. I remember telling you one time, I'm like crying, and I'm like, I feel like I'm literally drowning.
Yeah,
and I'm like doggy paddling.
Sad. Was JoJo next to you?
I can't even imagine because if he started drowning,
oh my gosh, it's over.
So I just feel like I'm like they're trying
to keep your head above water. The waves are crashing over you.
Literally.
Sad. That's horrible.
It's like kind of like a metaphor. Like you really just feel like that because it's like you'll get a little bit above water and then bam.
Down. That's so sad. It's not funny.
It's so not funny, but just in my head I have such like a visual and you're like on shore trying to throw.
I am. I didn't get in the water with you in your visual.
Not right now. Well, yeah, no, you're right next to me. You're
like grab on to the life preserver. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So initially getting out, these are the emotions that I've had. So you feel still have the anxiety. I was having like sleep and dreams and wasn't able to sleep well. And that's
like
so
dreams about him.
Dreams about him, being back with him, the relationship, good times.
Like mainly focused around him. Those were the type of dreams.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Not like spider dreams or or like the scare or whatever.
Yeah.
Just dreams about the relationship. Like your mind will not stop. I remember telling you one time, you battle your mind every single day.
Yeah.
And it's like you feel like you don't have a break. Like I felt like I constantly, if I was alone somewhere, I had to have a show on. I had to have music on. Or if I didn't, and even if I did, your thoughts are just racing, and they're racing about the relationship. You think you made the biggest mistake of your life by breaking up with them. You feel so uncomfortable. You're questioning yourself.
Yeah.
I don't have any self-esteem. Like, how am I going to move past this? And then if you make any sort of progress, like you're like, okay, today I have a good mindset. I didn't have a nightmare or a dream. Today I'm feeling good. You want to tell that person.
Oh.
Which is really weird. And I actually learned through therapy that is normal.
Really normal? I didn't know that.
Or there's like,
you've never told me that before.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
It's not abnormal is what my therapist told me. Like that it's like you want to tell them your progress, which is also kind of weird. Like, why do I want to tell them that?
Which is probably just part of the manipulation.
Yeah.
mindset.
It's like you want their validation still.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
I think. But I was told that that's like not abnormal. So you're feeling anxious. I was having sleep and dream disturbances. I felt emotionally numb. It's like you're having all these feelings, but then you just feel so numb at the same time. It's like you just feel pretty beaten down.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're unable to stop thinking about the relationship. And then the other ones, like these kind of sound kind of extreme, but you really do feel them. You feel worthless. Like you feel like you have just been so broken down that you're just kind of nothing.
Yeah.
At a certain point. You feel very like raw and like just not yourself. And like you said, you just become a shell of yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're going through the motions and you're doing what you have to do, but you're just not there.
Yeah.
And then you also feel a lot of guilt and shame, which I don't 100% know why, but I
guilty
feel
like about what? Or nothing necessarily specific?
No, if I could specifically say, it has a lot to do with that person. Like I felt guilty, like I was breaking loyalty, or I was like betraying that person, or I just left and didn't give them an explanation.
Okay, yeah.
Or you just like, you have such a heavy sense of
and you're
guilt.
So used to like everything being your fault.
Yeah.
Already
like,
that
like
it's
I
probably
trying to explain myself to them and being like, okay, this is why I'm breaking up with you because I'm
this and this and this.
Yeah. And it's like you want to keep explaining yourself, but then at the same time, I'm like, I don't even know why I feel this way still.
Right. And they don't deserve any, they don't need an explanation.
But in your head, you're just like, and then you feel a lot of shame because, like just when you're like taking a step back and looking at the whole situation, you're like, what is this happening? Or like, I never saw my life going this way. Or, you kind of feel embarrassed a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just remember so many times during that time period and someone would be like, how are you? Or like, and I have no idea.
Right.
Like they're just genuinely asking like, how are you? And I'm like, I wouldn't even know what to say. I hated talking about it, which I didn't bring it up, obviously.
Like, I'm actually really struggling. Let me tell you about everything.
But I avoided like everyone and everything for a really long time because I was just I didn't know how to handle my situation. And like a part of you wants to go back. A part of you knows that you shouldn't go back. You do have your support system telling you like, you're so great, like you're going to get through it, keep fighting. And you have to keep believing that. But then the other part of you is like, I'm worthless. I have, like
that's really hard.
It's so hard. And I would say the hardest part about all of that is it's like you feel like you never get a break from it.
Yeah, like it's a constant just like grind and battle between your mind and...
And I remember even telling you one time, like, I have to actively try to not think about him. Like days and days and days would go by. And this lasted on for me until I reached out to get specific trauma therapy.
Yeah.
And that was for a really long time. Like I tried to battle this for like 7 or 8 months, I want to say, because that's like even when I lived with my little sister for a while, we did a travel assignment together. And I was trying to do everything to like
just figure it out,
get through. And I feel like I'm a very like persistent person. Like I was like, I'm not going to give up. But like there were times where I was like, this is miserable.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I remember you talking about that even. Just that it's like, it just sounds so much easier to just go back to your comfort
Yeah.
Even though it might not be like the ideal situation.
Yeah. But it's like the easiest thing to do. And then that was the period where my mom was like, you just got to fight through. I'm like, okay, I just got to fight through. I got to keep doing it. And you have legitimate breakdowns during that time. Like,
which is to be expected.
Yeah.
Or I mean, that doesn't
be in Trader Joe's and just start crying. Or
JoJo getting pink eye.
Oh my gosh.
And which we talked about last season.
Yeah.
But stuff like that where usually it wouldn't be
like
a big deal.
Minimal. Yeah.
Really triggered you.
Yeah. And so those are the times when I'm like, I'm a crazy person.
Well, and being even in specific areas.
Yeah.
That you guys had been or that has some sort of connection, which is where it kind of became known that it was more than just like a unhealthy relationship. It was the actual, what is it called? Trauma bond.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. And so you like learn all this stuff. Oh, and then you start telling yourself, I almost forgot this and I would have been so mad. It wasn't that bad.
Which you did that a lot.
I did that.
I feel like you questioned, or you didn't question. I feel like you had verbalized that you felt that way as far as just being.
Or that's why we laugh when Mackenzie says the word abusive is because I hate, like, that's not a word that you just throw around. I take that like so seriously, and that's why I don't like saying it, because it's like the word hate. I feel like the word hate is such a strong word. Like if you say you hate somebody, like, whoa, that's like,
well, and I feel like you're fully aware that you were in a abusive relationship. But like you said, when you question, was it actually that bad? It makes you be like, should I not be labeling it like this? Because
I still do. Like even to this day, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be dramatic. Like this is like,
but I know all the things you're not being dramatic.
Yeah,
and even the therapist and stuff validated everything and laid it all out to.
Yes. So once I got to my like rock bottom where I was like, this is either gonna ruin my life. I remember being like, this could either ruin my life. Like I could literally spiral and just.
Is that the time you told me you were like 2 or 3 decisions away from going to prison? When we were at the parking lot and you're like in a parking lot and you go, I mean, I was like 2 or 3 decisions away from being in prison. I'm like, excuse me, what?
I said a lot of things out of character.
It's like, what did you do that made you that close to prison? It wasn't actually legitimate, I don't think, but you were all over the place.
I was all over the place. And like, gosh, I think about people that I met in certain situations or like times of my life. I'm like, I mean, I was never mean to anybody. That's not what I mean. I just mean like, gosh, I was such a hot mess. But maybe not to them, but like in my head, I'm like, yeah, it's just. And that's why I'm such an advocate all the time about you just never know what someone's going through. So even if, and I felt like I was an advocate about that even before.
Yeah, but once you're in an actual situation, it really makes you realize.
Even more so. Like just be gracious. So anyway, so I had a very, very hard 7 months or so. I don't even remember the time frame. Yeah. It's really all a blur at this point. But then, I got to my rock bottom, almost went to prison, and I'm just joking. And
I don't have enough money to bail you out, right? So I would come visit you,
which was really sweet. So that is when I was like, I need professional help. I think because for the longest time, I'm like, it wasn't that bad. I don't need help.
The other thing I think worth mentioning is you did attempt to get help. But it was the wrong kind of help, I feel like. Yes. It was more of a write down your feelings type thing, which isn't really what you needed at that point. You needed somebody to say, these feelings are valid, give a name to what you were actually going through, and then give you actual steps to get you through it versus like,
how do you feel today?
Journal about it. Which I'm not saying those aren't good skills, but also you didn't need that at that point in time.
Yes. I'm so glad that you said that because that is true. During that time, I did try to seek out a counselor, and you're right. They were like, "That's a tough situation." Like, it was more just like I feel
they
like
weren't like trained for that.
It's like I could do that now, and it would be beneficial.
Yes,
it's more of like a maintain thing. I needed like
the blue ball.
The blue ball. I did. Oh my gosh. Yes. So that's when I like got serious. I was like, this is not me. Like, I am not this person. I'm not going to keep letting this like damage me or whatever.
Right.
And then also I'm going to like go through this and then I want to like go back. But like your support system is make or break this type of situation. So if I didn't have like you and my sister and like I have like a very close group of girls who have like been through this whole situation with me. And if they weren't there being like, dude, you are so great. You're so beautiful. You're so like, and it's like telling me that every day. If I needed to hear it, then it's so easy to not believe it or like, you know, because you just feel so down. So I sought out a trauma counselor, which I didn't think that I had gone through a trauma. That's why I was like, I don't need trauma. Like, I just need a therapist to help me like
work through your emotions.
Work through my emotions. Well, no, I now am very much more educated in the long-term effect of this type of relationship. And you're like going through a trauma.
Right.
For an extended period of time.
And you're in like fight or flight for years.
For a long time. And you're just on edge like the whole time. And obviously, like I said, there's like the ups and the downs in the relationship, but like the overall, like it is like you're on edge for a very long time. And so our podcast.
Still recording right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Welcome, Jeff Beaker.
Special guest today is what I thought.
Do you have anything to say about Shelly?
Well, we got a lot going on with Shelly. All right. We'll work through all this stuff. I guess next week I'm a special guest.
Next week, maybe. Have fun fishing. Bye. Okay, interruption. Sorry.
Bustin'.
Goodness gracious. Okay.
We love him. We love Jeff. That was hilarious. Okay, back to trauma therapy.
We need a sign outside our door that says recording.
We're like on air.
On air. Like Full House.
Yeah.
You know how they have the door or going down the stairs that said on air or whatever.
We need
that so that we don't have randos busting through the door.
That was funny.
Trauma talk.
I feel very traumatized right now. Just kidding. So yes, I finally sought out a trauma counselor, and I'm trying to think back specifically why I ended up doing that. I learned about the trauma bond, and
you should kind of explain the trauma, what that means.
I should have like looked it up before because I have like a couple definitions that I'm going to say, and
it's okay if you don't know.
I should have done that, but basically it's like a bond that you build with somebody who essentially everything I mentioned like has broken you down for so long that you feel like you can't leave them. You have such a strong sense of loyalty to them, and you can't betray them. And it's just basically everything that I went through. I had to just like please this person, and like my whole life became them.
Okay.
My identity, it became them. I feel like hopefully I'm explaining that well or
I think that
accurately.
Seems like it would be.
But from what I remember, that is
what that means.
What that means. And so then that's when I sought out a counselor, like a trauma-based counselor. And this is what literally like changed my whole trajectory. And this is what I'm like, if you're in this type of relationship and you know, like just, you don't even have to know that like, you're in an abusive relationship, but just like my relationship's just off. Like you know something's off.
And I mean, I feel like most people have enough common sense to know when something's not right, or they're having feelings that aren't healthy, or there's actions being done that are obviously not okay.
Yes. And then if you like, it's like if you hear this and you know like, okay, it's going to be hard, but then you know the steps to take, it's just, it seems like such a different experience.
Yeah.
And so I finally did. And he's like amazing. If anybody
needs a trauma counselor, reach out to Shelly.
And it doesn't have to be just a relationship. Like he actually is works for the Red Cross, and anytime there's like a natural disaster or anything, he flies down and is like a counselor for people who've gone through like physical traumas. Like,
and can I just mention this really quick, because I feel like you've become very passionate about this.
Oh yeah,
especially since working a combo of, I feel like working in the ER and then having your own personal experience, is anybody who has any sort of trauma in their life, whether that's relationship abuse, like sexual abuse, what are the other things? Any type of abuse or like trauma, if you don't deal with the trauma, it really does have the ability to like ruin your life.
Yeah.
Because you can't work through.
It affects everything, whether you realize it or not.
So just kind of being very encouraging of seeking help if you have had a traumatic experience in your life, no matter what that is. And not just assuming you can get through it on your own.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said that, because I feel like I have talked to you about that a lot. Like,
because of even like the people in the ER that come in, that it's like, well, they have all this trauma, and it makes sense that they're in the situation they're in because of the trauma. But at the same time, they have to seek some sort of help. And obviously easier said than done. And
and it's hard.
If you don't have enough money to like pay for the counseling or whatever it is, but if you have the ability and you've been through a traumatic experience, the amount of like world of hurt you can avoid.
Yes. And I feel like there's people who in my life who after know my situation, they've opened up and they're like, yeah, I could have alleviated so much things or
just like heartache. Or you make other decisions that you wouldn't necessarily make because you haven't dealt with the initial trauma itself, or you've been scared to talk about it or whatever, which is fair.
It is so fair. It's so hard to, like, I remember going into my first appointment and I was like so nervous. I was sweating. I didn't know what to expect. And I also was scared to say anything. I didn't really, he is like amazing though. He makes you feel like so comfortable, and he is so intelligent, and like literally the first I almost said episode. The first session, he was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Like, he made me feel so confident. He was like, oh, like, these are the things you've been through. He like touched on all the different points, and then he's like, we're gonna have a couple sessions. He's like, I think you could have this, or you could make a huge stride in like 3 to 4 sessions,
which is like so encouraging.
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, no way. I'm thinking this is like years down the road. Like, I'm gonna feel like this forever. And he was like, no, like, it was like basically clearly a trauma, and you have to like do a couple assessments at the beginning, and he'll like lay it out for you. And a lot of the things that I was saying, he described that I was having symptoms of PTSD. Yeah. And so we went through that, and essentially why McKinsey said the blue ball. So I feel like I'm very unprepared as far as like my terminology, but it's like rapid eye something. So basically there's like this little blue ball on the screen, and it goes like back and forth across the screen, and it's like a white background and a blue ball, and you just like follow the ball back and forth, and he's like prompting you. There's a lot of visualization. You have to verbalize a lot of things, and it sounds like, I remember telling you after, and I was like, this is so weird.
But it works.
It so works.
And you have to like stay focused on the ball.
Yeah.
And if you get off track, or if your mind wanders,
you have to do grounding. He says it. It's like grounding. And you literally retrain your brain. And it's incredible. I have never felt... Okay, so then I did all of that. And through that, I got the validation that I needed. He put names to the feelings. And one of them that I just want to touch on, that I brought to the actual definition, just because it was like super helpful for me, is that if you remember me thinking, like, I was like questioning reality, and I was like super confused during situations, and I like didn't understand what was happening. There is a term called gaslighting.
Oh yeah.
And this word I have heard, but I never understood the definition of it. I didn't know really, because I feel like it kind of gets thrown around a little bit, and
probably not in the right context.
Yeah,
maybe.
I was kind of, I just was uneducated about it. And so when he was explaining certain situations and he put the names like shame, like I didn't know what I was feeling. He's like, oh, you're shameful. Oh, you're, not me shameful, but like you're feeling shameful. He's like, you're having a lot of guilt. You feel, it sounds like you're feeling worthless. Like he is the one who put all of those names to the emotion I was feeling, which sounds weird. Like it's like, it's like you would know if you felt guilty. I didn't.
But sort of not. I feel like you wouldn't, or even the feeling of shame.
Yeah.
Like you might feel a bunch of feelings, but not understand that that's actually what shame is ultimately.
Because I'm like, I didn't know what shame was. Or like, I have never felt like, I felt guilty before, but not in like that type of a context. So it was just super validating. And he was so matter of fact about it. Like, yeah, this is like what you feel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then so gaslighting, back to that really quick. I'm going to read, this is from a medical journal.
Let's hear it.
If anybody wants the reference. So it says, gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse in which a person or group causes someone to question their own sanity, memories, or perception of reality. People who experience gaslighting may feel confused, anxious, or as though they cannot trust themselves.
Which is like spot on how you were feeling.
So spot on. And I even like more recently just started to feel more confident about my own decision making.
Yeah. You've been making good decisions out here.
It's so, I mean, it's literally,
to be clear, you never actually made any, you didn't actually make any bad decisions, really.
Yeah. I feel
maybe
like
a few questionable that were out of
like my
your norm, but you didn't do anything that was like detrimental to your future.
No, thank goodness. But I feel like you have the potential to, like you could.
And you also had, like you said, a good support system that was of keeping you in line a little bit.
Yes. Keeping me in line a little bit. Like, I don't... Like all the way, keeping me in line. I could.
But that's a big part.
That's a huge part. I'm just looking back because I want to make sure I didn't miss.
Skip over anything.
Yeah, miss anything. Oh, and then so he put the names to all of these emotions I was feeling, and he was the first one, or like when I was talking to him about it, he was like, "You miss the way you were treated," and I was like, "Yeah, I do."
Weird.
In a weird way, because I'm like, I even expressed to him like, I'm like, I feel like I want to go back, or like, and let me tell you, there were a couple times where I almost bought a flight back to go. Like, when I say it's like dramatic, like these emotions are very strong.
Right. You're like,
very
screw
strong.
It all. I don't
like,
care what anybody thinks. I'm just going back. This is my norm now.
And it's like you feel a sense of relief in that moment. Like you're like, that's my plan. I'm going to do it. And I like almost did it multiple times. Not multiple, but like at least a couple.
Yeah.
Because it's really confusing and you have your crazy emotions.
Yeah.
And so being validated is a huge, huge part of your recovery and your healing. And then you have got to give yourself grace. Like I felt so stupid. I felt like it, or you just never, obviously you don't like picture your life going that way.
Yeah.
So it's just like hard to imagine yourself in that type of a situation. But I want to now touch on really quick. So that's like all how you're feeling. And so therapy is like so important.
Yeah.
But then also is your support system. Like 1000%, because they're the ones that are going to tell you, well, they're the ones that are going to help you get out and stay out. And then also help build you back up, because you are starting from rock bottom. And so you need people in your life who truly have the best intentions for you. They want to see you succeed. They've seen you. They know you like pre.
Right.
And that is, I think, huge. And not saying that if you met somebody
that they couldn't have an impact
or whatever, that they couldn't do the same thing.
to see what you were before. Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm going to start crying when I'm talking about this and looking at you. So I'm going to look away. I just imagine you now doggy paddling next to me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. But it's literally like the little things were like every single day, probably for those like 7 months, I would tell you what I was thinking. And it was probably the same thing every single day. Or like, I want to go back. I'm crying. I'm crying. I'm emotional. I feel whatever it was. Like, it's probably so annoying. Or you're just like, I mean, you've already gone through the relationship with me, and then now it's like, oh my gosh, she's
well, it's not
or you
annoying.
know what I mean? But it's that's how you feel like coming out, or you. It's like you feel like you because you're constantly thinking about it. So there's like multiple times I'll be like,
well, and it just feels better to verbalize it.
It does, and also, knowing my therapist saying like it is so part of the healing process for you to just say it and like talk about it, and because it's like you can't wait for every. I mean, I was doing at the beginning. Session, I was doing sessions quite frequently, but again, like you can't like hold it in between. So like having somebody that you know is not judging you, who is truly like wants the best for you and is telling you positive things. Like the amount of times you're like, oh, you look so good, or like, you're so beautiful, or like you literally giving me words of affirmation all of the time. It's like that makes such a difference, because if you have somebody that you know loves you and like wants the best for you and is telling you those things, like you know they're true,
right?
You're starting to like believe your feelings again, and you literally have to. I wrote this down. You have to reestablish or rebuild your own heart. Like you have to. And it has to like overtake your mind. Yeah. Because your mind is like playing tricks on you, but it's like deep down your heart like
knows the truth. Yeah.
And
your worth and all of the things that you've been told your whole life that are true.
And so I feel like that is so important to the recovery part and staying out. So this is kind of like staying out, but a huge part of being able to stay out is the recovery. Yeah. And so I feel like those are the main parts about that. I'm trying to think, is there any like thing that you can think of? Because next week we're going to talk about the friendship side of it,
of the story.
But also I feel like the support side, I just like can't give enough emphasis to. Like you just, and even if I am like the luckiest, like I have the greatest family, the greatest friends. Like I lived with Mackenzie during the situation, and so like she saw everything that I was going through, and like all of the breakdowns. And even if it's like, if you have, I'm just trying to think of someone who is not as fortunate. Like
I know, I was going to say, somebody who doesn't have a strong support system or feel like they're in it semi alone. Yeah. What do you feel like you would recommend for that?
It's like you need like one person, or like also like having a dog in this situation was
get a dog. You don't have anybody, get a dog.
Really helpful. Like, therapy, dogs are a real thing. I do believe. But it's like if you...
He's like, here, what do they call it? Your heart dog. Have you heard of this?
No. Heart dog.
I think that's what it's called. Where it's... Or a heart animal or something, where it's like people have a bunch of pets or whatever. You've had pets, but there's the one animal that like... Dog. Yeah, it really connects to you, that you feel on a deeper level of connection.
Yeah, he's that.
I think it's called heart
dog.
I heart dog like cute. Or something like that.
It's really cute.
But
for my birthday last year, Mackenzie got me a necklace with JoJo's.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the calendar.
And she made a calendar of JoJo. It was so freaking cute. With props.
I thought he was gonna bite my head off though. I'm like, Greg, I need you to help me. Can you help put this headband on JoJo as he's like like, it's okay, he's a good boy. Back on track. Anyways,
just having a support system, and like there's like no way I will ever be able to like properly thank the people who help like my support system. Like, I mean, I feel like I've told you so many times, like you almost feel like indebted to people because of like they probably don't realize the impact that they had, but you just feel so you just get such a sense of like thankfulness and gratitude because of like how much they did for you.
Sweet of you.
So even if you don't have like loads of people in your corner, like having like one strong person who like has the best for you or has the best intentions for you and like just like really knows your heart and like is able to literally be your hype person through it all is like so important.
Which, I mean, well, I'll touch on this more next week, but I feel like as a supporter perspective, like I think it does feel more extreme to like, for me, I'm like, well, of course I'm not going to just let you like drown.
Throw me a little.
Good luck. Good luck. Or, you know, like obviously I care about you so much that I'm not just going to be like, I mean, figure it out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, which I mean, so I don't feel like you're in debt, or what did you say?
Indebted
to me or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I know you would do the same for me.
Yeah. I'd come out with a jet ski. But
I prefer a yacht, maybe.
Oh. A yacht with a ladder.
With a ladder.
So that's just like super important. And so I think if you're listening in a situation, know somebody, yes, it is so hard. It's harder.
Well, and I would guess there's probably a lot of support groups for things like this too, for people even that don't have as big of a personal support system.
Yeah.
That's something that probably could be helpful. Just somebody who's been through the same situation to kind of keep encouraging you forward.
Yes.
You know?
Because I think a lot of times when we think of relationships like this, it's so focused on the actual relationship. And the part that is not as talked about is the after.
Yeah.
And the like support side. Like those are two aspects that are
Get
just
missed.
not touched on. And they're the majority of the situation. Like they're the whole success part of the situation.
Well, yeah.
And so that's why I want to put so much emphasis on it. And if you know somebody who's been through it and who can give you tips on like, okay, this is what to expect. It is going to suck. It is going to be hard. You're still going to have all those emotions. Like they don't go away. But if I could give any sort of like nuggets on, I remember I said that last time. Nuggets on how to get through them and work through them like quicker or more healthy or like, yes, that's the whole reason I would.
And if you know somebody who's in a situation and knows that like they need the extra support and encouragement, like go above and beyond to make sure you're checking in on them and not just checking in like, hey, how are you? But don't take fine as a answer. Like really, especially if you know the situation and you know that there is more to it and that they are struggling. Yeah. I feel strongly that it's like you have to push past the no, you're not fine. Or, you know, you're not fine.
Fine was like my favorite word for the longest time. So it's like,
and ultimately they want that. They need it, or they want the people that are going to be there forcing them to talk about what they're going through and making sure you're not judging them or being open enough to understand where they're coming from and not just brushed off. Yeah.
Because it's like not easy to be like, I want to go back.
Yeah.
Like,
or that's like probably an embarrassing comment even because it's like, why the heck would, you know?
And there's a lot of judgment.
A lot of hand motions today. I keep catching my hand in the mirror and I'm
there's a lot of judgment that I mentioned at the very beginning, like throughout this, whether it's made up in your head or real. Like there was like real judgment that I was getting from people. And if you're going through that alone, that's so hard because it's like they just don't get it. And it's a lot of times it's not their fault. Like they don't know. They're just also uneducated. but also it doesn't feel good.
Well, no.
So don't judge. But no, it's just things that if you've been through it or if you know what to expect, the situation can be just a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving into the last stage, and this is a stage that I am just starting, honestly. I haven't even done it all the way, but it's the forgiveness stage. And this is something that I didn't even talk about with my counselor. This is kind of just something I'm doing like on my own because there's still like the residual effects. Like I'm not just over here 100% like nothing bothers me.
Yeah. Well, it's still like a daily challenge that you have to like. It's still a daily
challenge. I know so much better how to handle it. So I don't have to actively try to not think about things anymore. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that's over. And you can get through it. Like that does end and things do get better. And it's like one of those things where this is probably going to come across kind of rude, but I don't mean it rude, but like I hate when people say time heals everything.
Yeah.
I hate that saying so much. And nothing against anybody who says it, but I don't believe that time heals everything.
No, you have to do some
yeah, like proactive. you have to be proactive, but then also like you just learn how to deal with stuff better. Mm-hmm. It's not that like time just like makes all these bad feelings go away. Yeah. It's like even like, oh, when my dad died, oh, time heals everything. Yeah. Like, no, that hurt is still there. You just know how to deal with it. So it's like, no, time doesn't heal everything.
Screw that phrase. And
it's like time helps everything. I feel like it's like
or you have the time to like figure things out. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that you're just healed.
Yeah. Like it's been a week. I'm good. Like, no, that's not how it works. But forgiveness is just something that as a Christian, you are called to do. Mm-hmm. And also, I know I was talking to you about it. It's like you hear about this a lot, like, oh, forgive them. What does that even mean? Like, I get, or that these are the questions I was asking myself as I'm starting this process of like working through it is like, if you like step on my toe, I forgive you. Like, that's easy. When you have something that has been so impactful for such a long time in your life, like, how do you forgive? And this person is not asking me to forgive them.
Right.
Like,
it's literally
I am trying to forgive somebody who's never going to ask me for forgiveness. And,
or ask you for forgiveness, for that matter.
Yeah.
Or I mean...
Yes. Either or. Like, there's no asking of forgiveness.
I don't think you actually have anything to be... Or he should be the one if anybody should be asking for forgiveness. But the point is, that's not the point.
Yeah. Or it's that... Like, that's what's hard. It's like, you're going to try to give forgiveness to somebody who's never going to ask for it.
No.
And... that's fine. Like I don't have any ill feelings as far as that goes. It's for my own personal peace.
Protect that peace, girl.
And it's just it's just another piece of you that you can just let go. It's like, like I had a lot of hard times because of this situation. And a part of you, you're always going to want to protect that person. I think that's something maybe I forgot to mention is like, even now, I try to protect this person, and that's just part of the situation. And again, like, do I know a lot about him? Yeah. Do I know everything in his head? No. I don't know what he's going through internally. Like, maybe there's a lot that he went through that he didn't express to me. Like, you have to give him that grace too. Like, do I agree with a lot of things that happened to me? Like, no. Do I wish they didn't happen? Sure. But they did, and it happened for a reason. And there's no, like, I will never sit here and be like, I dislike that person or talk poorly about that person at all because everything happens for a reason. Like, God had a plan. This is the plan. And so now it's like my working through that situation. Like, I can forgive for myself so that I can take what happened and move on and hopefully help somebody else. Like, I feel like that's probably, or in my head right now, like, that's like my calling.
Right.
To help other situation. It's like help somebody else who is either going through, know somebody, all the things.
Yeah.
And so if anybody wants an update on the forgiveness phase, I can let you know. But I just think it was important for me to mention that because I do think that is like the final, probably like
and not having bitterness, which is semi-related to forgiveness.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if you stay bitter towards somebody, that's just going to hurt yourself. Because
it's like
you're the one holding on to it.
Yeah, that person, I mean, there's a really good chance that he doesn't even think about any of this. Or you know what I mean? Or like,
yeah,
but as much as
not,
like,
that's not
it
the
doesn't
point.
matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter.
Right.
But I'm just saying that because like, if you do just hold on to that bitterness and they're not even thinking about it, like,
yeah, it's just affecting you.
It doesn't affect them at all. And so, and whether that's the case or not, it shouldn't matter. But it's just to free yourself more and to like take that weight off yourself completely and just really move forward and have a better mindset about moving
your future
on.
Yeah, your future is looking bright.
So you just got to keep focused on that.
Keep focusing on the future.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you. I feel like you are doing really good.
I do, and that is what when I went into this, it's like I wanted to make a point to say like, when you come out, you're not. It's hard. It's tough, and that's something that like hit me like a brick. Like I was like, oh, it's gonna be so much easier. No. It's harder.
Yeah, it hits you in different like waves and different
and in different ways. And so then, but if you know that that's what to expect, it's almost like you can like prepare for it.
Right.
Like, okay, I can do this, and then seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, like having someone who's been through it and be like, girl, just keep going. Like you can do it. Here's the steps. Keep doing it. It will get better. And then there's like all those quotes that you see that it's like your journey was harder because your blessings are greater, or I don't know, or whatever. And so just like keep encouraging yourself, like everything happens for a reason. God has a plan, and he just like uses you for other reasons. And so
love that.
That's the story.
Love that, Shell. I feel like that's really good. Or I feel like you explained everything very well. Okay. And I feel like a lot of people could get stuff out of this. Yeah.
Hopefully. And again, if anybody wants to like reach out or has questions, any specific questions, I'm very open to answering or talking about them. And then next week, I'm excited because Kenz gets to talk a lot more. I feel like I've been talking a lot. And we're going to go over the friendship side.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot to say.
I'm sure you do.
I've been taking notes in my head as things like pop up in my head to think about or that I've thought about that I know I want to say or, you know.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Greg's like nervous. He's like, okay. I'm like, what do you think I'm going to do, Greg? Like come on there and be just like
a crazy person.
Yeah. Tempting.
I know.
Tempting. But no, I'm going to hold back the crazy and I'm going to go helpful tips. Forgiving.
We're forgiving.
We're not bitter.
We're not.
Everything is good. You're doing great. Proud of you. But yeah, so is that a wrap on stage 3 and 4? Mm-hmm. Good job, Shell. Yeah, so join us next week as we talk about the supporter side of an abusive relationship and tips that you can use.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Okay. To help somebody who's going through a similar situation as Shell. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Effortless Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.